Player vs. New Girl, Chapter 1. Hey, my name is Victoria, though most people call me Vic or Vicky. Well, my friends did at my old school, but I'm moving now because my mom decided that she couldn't be faithful to my dad. Then, after having a huge divorce battle, they decided that my mom would get the house and most of what's in it, and Dad would get me and whatever Mom didn't get to keep. So now Dad and I were moving from the nice in-between weather of Illinois to the warmer beaches of California, where I'd also get to be going to an all-new school. Gee, thanks, Mom. Luckily, my dad's job allowed him to be pretty much almost anywhere in the country and paid very well. He owned his own corporation for making some type of phone that was apparently pretty awesome. A lot of people bought his phones anyways, so he could afford stuff like this. We'd just gotten to the new house, which I had to admit was really nice, and it was in a nice neighborhood on the beach. The whole house had hardwood floors. The kitchen was spacey and filled with new appliances on the wall, and it was facing the ocean. Well, the wall that was facing the ocean. It had these windows covering it. It was so beautiful. The house itself was about 3 stories high. Alright, Vicky. Go choose your room, save for the one that my bags are in, because that one is mine, Dad said. I looked at him with a huge grin on his face. Well, on my face. I was going to miss my friends, and of course my boyfriend, but the thought that was passing through my mind right now made me very happy. Which floor is your room on, Dad? I asked. The second. Why? He looked at me suspiciously, and I grabbed my bags and ran for the stairs. Because the whole 3rd floor will now be claimed as my room, I shouted and ran up the stairs, laughing madly with my chuckling dad walking up after me. When I got up there, my jaw dropped. I knew you'd be mad about the move, and I also knew you'd like a whole floor to yourself, so I took the liberty of making it your dream room. I hugged my dad tightly and looked back at the room. It had a blue theme, and the wall that was facing the ocean had these doors on it that led to a balcony, so I could walk out every morning and see the beach and just the quiet beauty of it. It was a very wide and open loft space, and my bed was on the wall to the far left. The wall opposite had a huge flat screen and an Xbox with games such as Dead Space 3, The Evil Within, Halo, good stuff like that. There were 3 other doors. One went to this giant closet, one went to a huge bathroom, and the 3rd one, well, it was just like this little storage space. It was pretty cool. I tackled my dad with another hug, and I told him it was perfect, and I thanked him once again. Of course it is perfect. Now, get ready, we're gonna go meet our neighbors that invited us for dinner, he said, and I pulled back. What? Dad! I shouted, but he was already running back down the stairs. Ugh! I shut the door behind him, and I pulled off my long jeans and t-shirt. I'd realized that California wasn't quite as cold as I thought it would be, or hoped it would be anyways. The fact was that it was probably about 100 degrees warmer than Illinois, which was probably exaggerating, but hey, it was still pretty hot. I slipped on a pair of shorts and a fancy-ish black tank top, and then I opened my door and went downstairs. Alright, Dad, I'm ready to go, I said. He looked at me and then shook his head with a chuckle. Couldn't you have tried to look a little more formal? He asked. Dad, these are the next-door neighbors, not the King and Her Royal Highness the Queen of Gumbo. I rolled my eyes. You do know Gumbo's not a country, right? He looked at me with worry crossing his face. It's an expression, Dad. I'm not stupid. Now are we going or what? He laughed and walked out the door with me, trailing not far behind. We walked to the house next door, and Dad rang the doorbell. The guy who opened the door was the most beautiful guy I had ever seen in my life. Wait a minute. What am I saying? I have a boyfriend. My boyfriend's name was Aaron. He was this bittersweet guy with light blonde hair and bright green eyes. We'd been dating for about 8 months before I had to move. It had been the best 8 months of my life. I smiled at the memory of him. The guy cleared his throat and I snapped up to see that my dad had already started walking inside, and I just stood there staring at the ground like an idiot. He smirked at me. Lost in thought, beautiful. His voice was kind of deep. His hair was a chestnut brown and his eyes were a bluish green. Just thinking about my boyfriend, I smiled back innocently, and he glared at me, immediately catching on with what I meant with that. I pushed past him and followed my dad inside. I heard the door close behind me, and I didn't bother to look back. As I followed my dad, I went into this pretty big kitchen where a gorgeous couple sat and laughed with each other. Though as soon as they saw my dad and I, they tried to get a little more serious, but still had giant grins on their faces. I felt a pang in my heart when I remembered how Mom and Dad used to be like that. I felt tears come to my eyes, but I pushed them back, as I always did when anything bad happened.